Awesome. But hi, everyone. Welcome to Applying to College 101 with your hosts. I'm Ashley.
And I'm Kuhu.
So we'll start off with like a brief intro about ourselves and then dive into this session. But yeah.
Cool. So hi, I'm Kuhu. I'm a rising junior at UC Berkeley, and I'm doing a double major between computer science and data science. So both of those majors are in the College of Letters and Sciences. I was born and raised in the Bay Area, California. If you know where Santa Ramon is, shout out. But in college, I am involved in a couple CS and engineering orgs. Recently transitioned from being the lead of the high school engineering program, which is how I got to know Sarah, to being the webmaster. And I am the president of the CS Undergrad Association, which is the largest and oldest CS org on campus. I'm also part of the CS61B or data structures class at Berkeley on the core staff. And in the summer / in my free time, I intern at a startup. But outside of work, I really like memes. I didn't include any memes on my slide, but I love memes, TikToks, and I love just being outdoors. So those are some pictures that I've taken. And yeah, it's really nice to meet all of you.
Awesome. Nice to meet you, Kuhu. And then me, I did not add as many photos, but I am Ashley. I am from Alameda, California, which is also in the Bay Area. It's like right near Oakland, and also near our campus. I also go to Berkeley. Sorry, I should clarify that better on these slides. But I'm a junior majoring in electrical engineering and CS, and then also minoring in art history. And I'm the next year I'll be the VP internal for SWE, which is who said was the Society of Women Engineers. And then I'm also involved in the Association of Women in EE and CS as their professional development officer. And right now I'm interning at Amazon Web Services, which is a lot of fun. And then also took last semester off to work at Warner Bros. Games, which was fun. And then apart from that, I love animated films, Yelping. I do a lot of Yelp reviews now, they're very fun. And food / tea. Like I have tea with me. Yeah. So I guess with that, we can kind of dive into this session. Why did it skip to this one? Weird. But awesome. So I guess we can first start off. So if you aren't already aware and just hopped into the Zoom link, this like session is all about talking about applying to college, our college journeys, and essentially asking any questions you might have about the college admissions process, or just like what applying to college is like and how to prepare for it and things like that. But yeah, Kuhu, do you want to kick it off?
Sure. I will probably come up with more stuff after you talk about your college journey. I guess I started college in the fall of 2019. And at first, I was just going to be like in computer science. I was taking like the intro to CS class. And there was a lot of things that were happening that semester. I think there was one, trying to get into classes, trying to do your best in classes, as well as like trying to find a social circle and, just constantly putting yourself out there, especially in like clubs and orgs and stuff. Also just like the entire thing of like imposter syndrome, am I actually meant to be at this campus? Am I actually going to succeed? All of that type of stuff. Yeah. And obviously the whole COVID pandemic thing that started in our second semester of college, which, really threw a wrench in things once we started like getting in the groove of it. But yeah, I think it's just a lot of trials and tribulations, as I wrote down on the slide. It's kind of like a roller coaster where it was like there was a lot of good things that were happening, and then there would just be something that would just completely derail all of it. But it's just kind of like that like, constant going with the flow that like really characterizes my college journey. Yeah, and I have to, like, basically just give a ton of props to the clubs that I am in, like Society of Women Engineers and the CS Undergrad Association, just because, like, it provided, like, a lot of community for me on campus, especially when you're, like, in a college that is, like, super big. I think every year Berkeley admits about, like, 7,000 students to their campus, like, in their freshman or transfer class. Um, it was just really nice to, like, get to see, like, a lot of familiar faces and kind of make it, like, a little bit more of a small campus feel. And yeah, with that, I will hand it over to Ashley.
Yeah. And for me, as some context too, we're gonna go into our high school journeys too right after this. We should have flip-flop slides, but it's okay. But for me, I also started fall 2019. And it was actually a very rocky journey, I feel like. Because our CS classes at Berkeley are very big. So our first class is 61A, and that class is around 2,000 students. So it can be really intimidating going in. And like who said, it's really important to try to find your community and your safe space. So I was lucky to find that in SWE, and then also in All, which is the other club I'm in, and kind of just hop around and find the different people I felt comfortable with and felt like I could be confident with. And then yeah, second semester survived that somehow. Was also rocky. But that's when I found out that I wanted to do my minor, because I actually came in not liking history at all at first, and then did this art class, this like art history class on the side to originally lift my GPA, but it turned out to be a class that I really liked. So I'm now minoring in it. And then the semester after that, um, I did 21 units. So this was like my sophomore fall. And that completely burnt me out, which is why I took the semester following that off to work instead. But it's been a very rocky journey, and I'm kind of like nervous, excited to go back this fall, but it'll be interesting. And we can talk more about this later, but that's a little TLDR on our college journey so far. So I guess we can go into a brief high school rundown too. So then, should I go first since you went first last time?
Go for it.
Okay, high school journey. So in terms of high school journey, um, for me, I'll start off at my sophomore year of high school, because I think that was when I started thinking more about college and those sorts of things. Prior to that, also, I didn't know what computer science was or anything. So sophomore year was really when it began starting. Um, so to start, um, my school doesn't have a big computer science program, despite being in the Bay Area. Um, so I first learned about computer science through this Khan Academy course called Pixar in a Box, because I really like Pixar movies. And it showed me like how like they made Pixar films with different functions and mathematics and things like that, and the science behind it. And then I started looking into areas where I could like learn that more, and I stumbled across these programs. So one was called Girls of Code, the other one was called Code with Classy. And I was lucky to be a part of those two programs and begin learning about computer science there. And there I just learned like basic JavaScript related things. So like how to make some animations in JavaScript and how to make like a website for the first time. They were very bad, like very shitty websites for the first time. I was never start coding everything, but it was like kind of what kicked it off for the first time. Um, and then I think from there I kind of got hooked into kind of just exploring it more and more and what I could do with it. And again, like since computer science wasn't a huge focus at my school, I didn't have a lot of friends that I could go to a lot of different things with. So I'd often go to like hackathons alone, or like when they were in person, or like go to different workshops by myself and kind of just Google around to find different programs. I have like a list I can try to share later, um, but yeah, that was the start of just kind of exploring my interests and finding if it's something that I actually liked. And then my junior year of high school, I took AP Computer Science, A at my high school. And then that's when I felt like I really loved it. Like the way that my teacher taught it, I just became really passionate about it and like loved just staying after school to work on my projects, and kind of got hooked to being able to create things on my computer and things like that. And then I continued with like the programs that I was part of and helping out with those too. And I think that year I also started doing more outreach with computer science. So I started these summer camps where I taught um, middle school gals in my town about computer science, because our, like, again, my town doesn't have a big focus, so I wanted to try to introduce that concept to middle school students early on, and it was just cool being able to show that side of the world with them and like be able to find mentors and things like that and work with companies for the first time. And just like starting this project by myself was scary but really fun to create. And then oh, along this way, I was like also a part of different clubs that were fun to be a part of. So like, I don't know if any of you have heard of DECA, or I was part of clubs like DECA, the Acts of Random Kindness, just fun clubs with friends that were pretty casual and things that I like doing. But yeah, from there, junior year to senior year, I continued doing like outreach and then also worked for Code with Classy that summer as a TA. And then that following year, I applied to college. And college admissions process was very tumultuous time. I procrastinated a lot. I told myself I wouldn't, and then I think I procrastinated too much, and eventually heard back, and am now in college. So that was, I guess, my high school journey in a way. Sorry, that was very long and not as cohesive and coherent as I'd like, but that was my college or my high school journey. So I'll pass it on to Kuhu.
Don't worry, I feel like mine is going to be even less cohesive, so we're okay with that. Yeah, so I guess for me, I have just kind of lived my entire life in like an identity crisis, like committing to something and like, fully like seeing my way through it has always been something kind of typical for me. So, when like they start telling you in high school, hey, you need to start deciding like what you want to do, or at the very least, what classes you want to take and like what extracurriculars you want to be in. I was just kind of like, I can't decide. So I decided to try and do almost everything that I was able to do. At the cost of like sleep and like just social life and all that type of stuff. I would take a combination of like like science classes and also computer science classes. I went to a fairly competitive high school where, people were competing against each other for like better grades and just that type of stuff. So there was a lot of like opportunities that were available to me, such as like AP classes, and a lot of students would make their own clubs. Fun fact, like I think my high school has like the record for the most amount of clubs on a singular campus in the state, which is kind of cool. But it also goes to show like how much people wanted to be the creators or the founders of something, that they would just create clubs and just reinvent the wheel. But yeah, I think what I figured out what my passion was like to help people and like to help like solve problems. So I would do a lot of stuff that was like in that type of vein. So I was like the president of like this like chapter of like an organization that helps fund surgeries for blind people who are in India. And I was also like the lead of like a tutoring program. And it was just something that was like fairly like, I guess, like not leaning one way or the other, like pre-med or CS, which were like the two major tracks that like my high school had. Um, in that vein, when people were like, hey, what do you want to do with your life? I was just like, oh, well, I have the two options, being pre-med in college or doing CS, because those were two of the things that I was interested in. But, again, I just wasn't able to commit to either one. So I just kind of did a split. I would take some CS classes, I would take some AP science classes, and I would do like extracurriculars in that sense too. Like I would volunteer at a hospital and then I would tutor CS, that type of stuff. And so when it came to like college admissions, everybody was like, okay, you finally have to make a decision, Kuhu. And I was like, yikes, right? so I kind of, I procrastinated on my college applications, similar to Ashley, and I eventually decided, okay, you know what? I'm gonna apply to two pools of colleges. One of them is gonna be for pre-med majors when like I'm actually pre-med and not like high school pre-med. And then like CS majors. And depending on where I get in, I will make my decision. Um, and then, like I applied, and in the second semester of senior year, I started getting my results back in, and I was getting results from both CS colleges and pre-med colleges. And I was like, oh shoot, I need to make this decision like soon, right? Um, and so I just, I had like a lot of existential crises because like, being pre-med is kind of like 10 years of schooling, and then CS is just like you're gonna set your life on that track for like the rest of your life. I was It was very intense. I'll just say that. And I guess that was one of the reasons why I ended up committing to Berkeley specifically because both the CS major and like any pre-med majors that I would want to do were in the same like college of letters and sciences, and I could take college classes of like all of those types of majors that I was like indecisive about and end up declaring a major once like I figured out what I really wanted to do. And so in doing that, I took a couple of classes. Oh wait, this is my college journey. My bad. But like TLDR, I started taking CS classes, and then I started taking data science classes, and that's how I stumbled into my double major. And yeah, always here to talk about college admissions because I feel like that was pretty much what my entire high school journey was dedicated to. So yeah, full of tips about that.
Beautiful. Awesome. And then with that, it goes automatically into the Q&A. I think we have some general questions we can talk about if no one has any specific ones. But if you do, that would be great. And I think we have one right now, which is a very important question. I'm not sure if Marina asked like what type of boba we prefer, or if we prefer boba. I don't know. Did you mention boba in your intro side, Kuhu?
I don't think I mentioned boba. I think you said you like tea. So yeah.
Oh, I do. I like regular. Oh yeah, I like regular tea and boba tea. Yes. But what's your favorite boba?
Oh my gosh. I think, hmm. I like all types of boba. And so like in Berkeley there's like a lot of boba shops, and so I've like had like a running ranking of all of my boba like shops. And so if you guys ever come to Berkeley, I can let you know which shops are the best for which types of teas. Okay, we have a question. What would you suggest for someone who's stuck between two different industries? I think this is like a question that I might be able to answer.
Yeah, I can kind of answer it too. You can start it though if you have like a good flow in your head of what you're gonna say.
Yeah, I think there's a difference between like theoretically being stuck between two different industries. Like, you're studying those concepts in class and you like both of the concepts, and you're able to do them like fairly well. And then there's practical experience in those two industries. So for me, my specific like industries were like going into the medicine field or being CS. And so what I did was I tried to get practical experience in both of those industries. So one, I volunteered at a hospital and I shadowed doctors. It was interesting, and it was something that I would have been very passionate about if I had chosen to go into it. But when I tried, just coding my own website and like making applications, I found that that was like much more like up my alley. And so that practical experience really helped me in like deciding.
Yeah. For me, I guess I'm kind of different in a way because I really want to go into video games and entertainment, but in a technology role. So like, for example, software like engineering tools for creatives to like make what they do and that sort of stuff. So for me, it's more of like kind of balancing both creative sides and technical sides. So I feel like for me, it's big not to stay glued to CS all the time, which is also partially why I'm minoring in art history too, and kind of trying to stay like not have CS be my identity or my personality, and trying to stay true to like my other interests as well. Um, So I'd say like since you're in high schools too, especially like continue doing what you love, whether it's like and like don't have it be just CS. I think it's important to have other interests besides software engineering and CS, while you're in college and like while you're studying it, since it kind of like it can become your world easily since you do so much of it a lot of times. So it's good to have that outlet. But yeah. And Sophia also had a question. So when applying to uni, would you recommend writing about long-term commitments that aren't as important to you, or extracurriculars that occurred over a short period of time but made a big impact?
Would you like to answer this one?
We
Or
can
are you
both
taking some time to
answer,
think about
but
it? Okay.
yeah, I'm thinking about it first.
Okay.
Um,
So I feel like if you say it's not that important to you, it is something like, even if it doesn't make a big impact on you, it can still showcase some of your skills, in my opinion. Like, dedication, if you got to like if you were making an impact on other people, that is still worth putting down on your college application. I would personally say if you can do a mix of the two, it would be really nice because like one, long-term commitments show like skills, and then the impact stuff is like really, really, really important when it comes to like writing your applications about why you want to do something specific in college.
mhm.
Mhm.
I'd say honestly, like also trust your gut, but then also I feel like whichever one you feel like you can tell a story with better, that connects to your story better, is the one to go with. Sorry, it's really broad, but like for me, there are clubs that I've just been a member of, for example, but weren't super passionate about, that I didn't write about in like my essays or anything. But then like things that I might have started um, later on that I was really passionate about and put a lot of time into and felt like was part of my identity more, that I wrote about. I feel like it's hard to answer without like specifics because it varies a lot, but whatever you think best shares your story and your identity and personality is best. Sorry, it's just so broad, but yeah.
Cool.
Um,
And just as a there was a question in the chat. So when would you recommend starting on UC essays?
is it
I
already out?
personally, I think the UC essays are already out. They release them like sometime in like June or July-ish. I would say my personal like advice is that you should at least take a look and think about what you want to write like over the summer before like your college application season. Because like as you write and you iterate through essays, you're gonna find your voice, show up clear and clear in your like prompts and your prompt responses. Um, I will definitely say that do not procrastinate on writing your essays. During my college application process, because like I had like a lot of stuff that was going on in like the summer before, like like sad stuff, funerals, deaths of the family, like all that type of stuff, right? That like I couldn't like actually physically like sit down and write like essays. Um, so like one thing led to another, and I ended up like starting my UC responses like I think the week that the deadline was due, and that was not a great thing because I like I didn't sleep at all. Yeah, actually, you're saying yeah.
No, yeah, from the week between I think December 30th to January 5th, something like that. I think I
Mhm.
only got like 5 hours of sleep total because I was like cramming all my essays. It was
Oh,
bad.
that's such a mood. Oh my
No, yeah,
gosh.
don't
Don't
do
be
that to
like
yourself.
us. Don't be like us. Start early.
Yeah. I'd say it's good to start brainstorming. And like there's never a good time to start. You kind of just have to start and force yourself to do it. And then you get big, like then you become like a little more attached to like what you're writing and sharing your story. Um, and that helps along the way. But definitely start early and like begin thinking about it, at least like having it like something to jot your random ideas on about like parts that relate to your identity or like stories you think you can tell. And trying to, I guess, think about your holistic application in your head and how you want to portray that into writing. But probably, if we're gonna be real, probably like start writing like making more cohesive iterations on your brainstorms at least a month beforehand, I'll say. And then if you really want, you could probably cram in that week. But this is like the procrastinator's guide. So like you could probably cram like the week before and you'll be okay. But like really don't do that to yourself. Just like start early as soon as you can because it's already out. Like it's better to submit it and be done rather than having to think about it. Like to like continuously think about it in the back of your head and just like stall on it. Because then once you click the submit button, you're done. You don't have to. And it's better than submitting it late too. Because I know people who like were about to submit it and then submitted it at like 1 a.m. and it didn't go through. And that's scary. Don't do that to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I also just want to add on that like what I found about procrastination is that you're doing it to the deadline. So the quality of what you're turning in or submitting may not be up to your standards. So like if you give yourself enough time, you can submit something that, you know, like you're 100% happy with. And, you know, that really quiets down a lot of doubts that you have like afterwards, being like, oh, well, what if I had more time? That could have done better. You know, just give yourself enough time to start with at the beginning, even if it's like way too much time, like even if you overshoot and start way too early, that's like way better than starting too late and, you know, just kind of like hating yourself for it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do we have anything else to say about that one?
No, I think we're good now.
Okay. I'm gonna quickly answer the one about my CS related experiences during high school. Yeah, so basically I did not have a lot of CS experiences in high school. My high school, I think, had like 2 CS classes. So one of them was like teaching like Visual Basic and like just like very, very basic like variables. This is what a function is. This is what a for loop is, like that type of stuff. And then I took APCSA in my junior year of high school. Aside from that, I did do a couple of like hackathons and like extracurricular events. So like I think in my freshman year of high school, this was like my first, or actually no, like I guess in 8th grade and middle school, they like showed us what Khan Academy was, and like they did like those like scratch like puzzles, drag and drop code, and I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. And then in freshman year, I have to thank my parents for this one. They learned about this like boot camp kind of thing where like you take an idea of yours and you iterate it all the way to like maybe like completion, and then you get judged by like local like business owners. And I was like, oh wow, that's kind of cool. It's like entrepreneurship. And so because of that like entrepreneurship thing, I ended up deciding to take those like CS classes in 10th and 11th grade. And then in senior year, I did not do any CS stuff at all. I was just like writing college applications, all that type of stuff. Yeah, if that stands out to you, if you have any questions about that in specific, I can totally talk more about it. There's a question, do you guys know about any common mistakes people make on their essays? And is there some type of formula to a good UC essay? I can start with this one if you want.
Go for it.
So I think one of the most common mistakes that I have heard like college admissions counselors talk about is in a word being too basic. So like there are some topics that like people, even though it may be very, very impactful for you, they just, you know, continue to read the same responses over and over again. And so because, you know, they're reading like applications like the entire day, they started to just see these basic applications and not actually see the individual behind them. So I think one of those things is just like not talking about topics that may be like very common. So like if there's something that you can add to like make your essay a little bit more personal and tweak it to kind of like stand out to admissions counselors, make them like take a second glance and be like, whoa, like this person, even though like even if they were talking about something like being on a sports team and like getting an injury or like, you know, having like a death in the family and having that impact them into the field that they want to do, like there's a way to like make that unique. And I think there's not something that I can personally say to like say, oh, this is what you should add to make it unique. But just thinking about it and like thinking about how you can make that story your own um, is something that you can do to avoid that common mistake. And also, aside from that, just like making sure that you are grammatically correct um, and speaking in a voice that is like I would say somewhat professional. Like, you know, you're not using like any curse words, you're not using like slang, like I guess like internet words, unless, you know, it has like a direct role in your essay, that type of stuff.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what Kuhu said. Um, what I was gonna say was on the similar lines, like they don't want your resume because you're already typing that out. They want your personality behind these essays. So it can be completely random things that you talk about, but connecting it to your personality and really showing who you are through your essays is kind of what I think is the key thing. Like one thing that I always remember is that like if you have like 50 essays that your friend is reading and then trying to find yours, they should be able to find it type of thing. And I think one mistake too is that a lot of people can think that there is a formula to creating a good essay. Like I know it's very easy to fall into the trap of like wanting to follow a similar template of like an essay that you find that is really good, which can be harmful. So like I feel like um yeah. I feel like just like really thinking about, I don't know, like really showcasing who you are outside of your resume is something that's really important. And connecting that back to like they don't want like stats on like how many people you've impacted in something. They want like the story behind it per se. Yeah, that's I feel like I could word this better at a different time, but that's the first thing that comes to my head.
Yeah. And then I guess we can talk about the second question as well. Is there some type of formula to a good UC essay? I guess like I wouldn't say like it's like a personal formula or anything, but what I have heard from admissions counselors is that UC specifically really values prompts or like responses that are like direct and to the point. So like for example, like if you do like your common application, they talk about like, oh, go into depth of like your stories and stuff. Like, you know, it's like 600 words and you know like you like show a character arc and stuff, right? um in contrast, the UC prompts are about like 250 words, so they're like be direct and to the point. If you have a story to tell, try and make it concise and try to like get your point across. So I guess I would just say that that's the formula that I used when I was writing my UC essays. Yeah.
For me, I tried to have the questions build off of each other, I think. Like I tried to have the stories connect to some central theme about me. I'm gonna be honest, I don't fully remember my essays anymore because it's been so long, but I think I wanted to try to bridge them together somehow that connected to my identity and like my overarching self, I think. But yeah, with the essays, they're all like 250 max. So it's all like fairly equal sections that you're all writing about. Um, so that definitely plays into how you like write about yourself and like how you want to, again, it's like all just sharing how you want to write your story. So we've said that a lot, but I think that's really what it's down to. And yeah, that was like, I think that was the technique that I went about. But then also kind of not honing in on just computer science, or like just like, I think I shared things about my personal background too, or like explain certain situations that might have affected my grades or something along those lines. So I did try to explain those things in my essays as well. But yeah, that was kind of my thoughts going into it. But yeah. Okay. But does anyone, if you have any other questions, feel free to drop it in the chat. I think we have one. Did we have one behind the slide? Let me see.
Oh yeah, I think we did. Oh yeah, also, just as a side note, you don't have to ask just about college admissions. We're also here to talk about college in general and all of that type of stuff. So if you have any questions about college or maybe Berkeley, like totally feel free to ask us about that as well.
Yeah. But in the meantime, we can answer this one. So Kuhu, what ultimately made you decide computer science and engineering versus pre-med?
You see, this is a decision that I still think about to this day. I'm just kind of like, should I have done pre-med? Like all that type of stuff. But I think what made me 100% choose computer science and engineering is because of like the weight that the degree gives you. Um, this is like not a knock on like pre-med majors at all, but like, you know, if you go through your undergrad and you do a pre-med focused major, and let's say you don't get into medical school, there's like a lot of chances for you or your future to be jeopardized. And as like, you know, a child of an immigrant, I was just kind of like, I want something that like, one, I like feel passionate about, but two, like can also offer me and my family like a stable future. And you know, my family, like they're already killing it and stuff, but like I just, you know, want to be also killing it with them. So I decided on doing computer science for not just like the passion that like I have for both industries, but also of like the added benefits that going into computer science would give me. And that's just kind of like, you know, stable job. You know, there's like constant like job growth and that type of stuff. And there's not a lot of ways that like you can like fall off track for that. What about you, Ashley?
Yeah, for me, I kind of mentioned it in the beginning, but I've just loved video games and entertainment and like animated movies since I was a kid. So that was like the main reason I just wanted to stick into it, is because I've always dreamt of having that job, of like being able to work in it. So that was the original reason. And then now actually studying it, I actually rethink it a lot. Because sometimes, oh, am I frozen or is Kuhu frozen? Can you guys still hear me? Okay, okay. Um, but now I'm very in between whether I want to do computer science and like software engineering once I graduate. After like actually experiencing it for the first time, interning, or if I want to do more of like product management or a role like that. But the great thing about my major is that I come in declared, so I don't have to worry about reaching certain requirements for it. And once I get my degree, it's a lot easier to transition to those types of roles if I want to ultimately, which is why I'm like, am definitely going to stay in it for now. But on that note, when you're applying to college, also know like what program you're actually applying to, and how that plays out in your time in college. So like, as some background for Berkeley, my major is technically in the College of Engineering. So everyone who comes into the College of Engineering comes in declared. And then for letters and sciences, Kuhu, do you want to explain that one?
Yeah, for sure. So for letters and sciences, they basically have intended majors. So like you put an intended major down on your application, but when they evaluate your application, you are evaluated as like a student in general. They're not saying, "Oh, is this person right for the computer science major?" Actually, I'm gonna get into the computer science major at letters and sciences like in a bit because it's going like under some changes. But they basically evaluate you just as a student, not based on the major that you put down in your application. This is going to be different for computer science, I think, starting this application cycle, where they are implementing more of a direct to major like status. So this is going to be a little different in that if you put down on your application, oh yeah, I'm intended computer science in letters and sciences, then they'll basically go into like a pre-approval for you. So let's say you get that pre-approval, and you said you want to do CS. You're good. You're totally fine. If you put down CS intended and you do not get that or pre-approval, it does become substantially harder for you to declare CS. I think the only way you can declare CS is if you appeal, and right now they did not want to like approve a lot of appeals in that sense. However, if you apply to letters and sciences and you don't put computer science down, they will still put you through that pre-approval process, um, and like approve some people if they do choose to go into CS. So obviously, there is technically a way to game the system and like, put something else down in your application and apply. And so to circumvent that, what they're doing is um, approving more people who put down CS intended on their application versus if they didn't. So like, for example, if they approved 900 people who put down CS intended, they would approve 300 who didn't. And so, the ratios kind of work out that way. Um, TLDR though, CS declaration at Berkeley comes down to 3 classes, 61A, 61B, and 70. So that's basically interpretation and structure of programs, data structures, and discrete mathematics and probability. Um, if you are able to get an average of a B plus in those classes, you can get a little lower, a little higher in any class. It doesn't matter as long as it averages out to at least a B plus, which is like a 3.3 GPA. Then you are automatically admitted to the major. Um, and in the event that you do not make that GPA cap, you can definitely still appeal. They take into account extracurriculars, internships, and your current GPA, for those classes when they make that decision. So instead of it being, you got that GPA, cool, you're in the major, they're gonna say, okay, well, we're gonna do a holistic review of your major. That is not to say that CS is the end all be all at UC Berkeley. Data science is such a nice program. It is actually a very new program, but from what I have read about it, I think it is the #1 ranked in the country right now at UC Berkeley, which is really crazy. And the requirements for declaring that major are substantially lower. However, a lot of the classes are applied CS concepts, and you do get the chance to take CS upper division classes, as well as like upper division classes in like statistics. And there's this thing called IEOR, which is like industrial engineering and operations research. It's just like a combination and amalgamation of those like upper division classes when you're taking that program. And so TLDR, you take the classes that you want for declaring the major, and if you get the GPA, then you're in. And if you don't get the major, or like if you don't get the GPA, then you get to appeal and get a holistic review.
So yes, know
And
what
I'm
you're applying
sorry,
to.
but if you are confused at any point, feel free to message me. I can clarify it.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the rundown about how it works at Berkeley. But yeah, at schools it can be very different. So just know what you're applying to and how. But yeah. Does anyone have any other questions? Or we can just talk Kuhu too.
Yeah. Well, we can talk about like how we know each other maybe.
That's true.
It would be fun, maybe. Yeah. So Ashley and I know each other through like this program that we both led in fall 2020. So it's called the High School Engineering Program, and it is put on by the Society of Women Engineers. TLDR, we basically have a lot of female identifying high school students come in, and we take them through like the different fields of engineering. So that's like theoretical concepts. We have professors come in and talk to them, and then they also get the chance to do some hands-on work with it. Yeah. Sorry, just read the chat.
But yeah, fun times, fun times.
If you are in high school, but you are not, what is it called? Actually, no. Right now, if you are in high school, you can totally apply. I'm gonna drop it in the.
Probably.
I'm gonna drop the link.
Subscribe. Yeah.
Ooh.
But yeah, you should, if you are interested in learning more engineering topics, feel free to apply. And we don't run anymore, but so we would love to have you as a part of it.
Oh, how many hours do you spend studying in college?
Haha.
Mhm.
Do you have a number in your head? I have to think first.
I can tell you when I study. I can't really like tell you like the hours, like calculation.
What are your times?
I would say I try to study almost like all of the time. Not in the sense of like, oh, like looking at a textbook and reading and that type of stuff, but you know, outside of like eating, sleeping, personal hygiene, that is very important in the CS field, contrary to what some people's behavior might be. And social activities. There is like a lot of time that I have to like work on stuff like projects. And you know, sometimes I'll internally just like be reviewing concepts in my head if I'm like walking from place to place. Yeah.
For me, I do about, so in college they say you choose 3 things, or you choose from 3 things. You choose social life, academic life, or sleep. My first 3 semesters I chose academics and social, no, I chose social life and academics, and I didn't get any sleep. But now I am choosing sleep and academic life. And then like social life, I feel like it's like a balance between academic and social life, but I prioritize my sleep now sometimes. It's a mixed bag. It depends on the week, like who said. But I am prioritizing like my health more and like going outside and that sort of thing, especially during COVID. It's like the way I've been able to stay sane. And then also kind of just balancing academic with social. I feel like when you go through college, you get better at that, especially because you start like learning how to balance FOMO better and things like that. So, but like actual studying, I like to study at night a lot. Or like after 8 is usually when I work best, I feel like. But then I also work during the day when I'm like waiting for a class on campus and that sort of thing. So probably around I'd say I try to study at least 3 to 4, 2 to 3 to 4 hours a day. And then on Fridays, I cram a lot, I will admit. But I see Emily's question now. So, oh wait, should we answer which question should we answer first?
I think maybe the Berkeley courses one, because I was sent in before. Yeah, so they've heard that Berkeley courses are very hard or getting an A is super difficult. Is that the case, or is everything doable?
You have to balance it. You can't do, like I did 3 technicals my first semester and I died. If you do that to yourself, something like that, that's painful, and you don't balance out your course load, and then also do a lot of extracurriculars, then you can burn out really easily. And Berkeley courses are challenging, but again, there's a way to balance it. So like if you're doing the general formula, you could say, is like taking 2 technicals and then a humanities class or another requirement that you need to do. And like that's one way that makes it a little more doable. But if you try to cram classes at a certain point or things like that, then it can become a lot harder. But it's definitely possible to get an A in classes. Like I feel like for technical classes, there are some classes that will just click better for you possibly. Or like, so for example, for those intro classes Kuhu was talking about, I know people who hate discrete math but love data structures. So like I'll be blunt, they might get like an A in data structures and then get like a C or a B minus in the discrete math class. So it's like things like that help balance it out too. So it is doable. I will say that.
Yeah, and just to provide some context, when we say technicals or tech courses or versus breadth, technical courses are like courses that you would take for your major, especially if you're an engineering major, then like these are like STEM courses. And then breadth classes are something that is like like UC Berkeley, like outside of colleges, just like a university level like class amount that you have to take in order to fulfill like your like all-rounder Berkeley experience. So like I think for the College of Engineering, actually feel free to like add more information, but I think they have like a set amount of breadths that they have to take. And then for letters and sciences, there are 7 courses that we have to take in like various fields. So there's like arts and history, philosophy, physical sciences, biological sciences. I'm not remembering the other ones. History, and then like ooh, can't remember the last 2. But yeah,
It's a good
basically,
variety, yeah.
yeah, it's a good variety. And I just want to also add that a lot of courses at Berkeley are curved to a grade. So let's say it's curved to like a B or a B plus or an A minus. What that means is like sometimes it is in comparison to like your other students like performance, but a lot of times like your performance in the class will be set to that type of curve, and in all scenarios that works to your benefit, because what you can do is like see where you're going to lie along the curve and see what grade you might get. They also do a lot of bumping up of the curve at the end of the semester, so getting an A would not be super difficult. You just need to put in the effort for it.
Yeah. To clarify what College of Engineering has, we have definitely a lot less breadths or like humanities related classes that are required for us. So we have an ethics course, which isn't necessarily humanities or breadth per se, but it's like ethics about engineering. And then we also have 2 upper div humanities classes that we have to take. And then the general Berkeley requirement of a reading composition course. There's 2, you can pass one of them out with AP exams, and then the other one is required, but it's essentially just a writing course. And yeah, that's it for engineering. So we actually have a lot less requirements than LNS.
Yeah. How is the living style at Berkeley? Cook or buy food, and how are weekends spent? How do we want to approach these questions?
I will say it's so trippy because my roommate's name is Emily Sue. So great to meet you, Emily. But yeah, I guess we can go question by question. But living style, oh, I can talk about downtown or like south side, and you can talk about north
I
side.
can talk about north
Okay.
side. Yeah.
Okay. But I guess south side is like the general like traditional area that a lot of Berkeley students hang out in, because it's also like our main strip of like food areas and like busy streets. So it's like a slightly more dangerous area too, but it's kind of just like the trendy area where people, I wouldn't say trendy, but like the popular area that most people go to because it's near campus and near classes and things like that. So that's one part of the general living area, but living style wise, people usually, so rent at Berkeley is really expensive. So people usually like have roommates and live in an apartment off campus after their freshman year. And the walk to campus from those apartments, from those general areas aren't bad, but you do have to start your housing hunt early on to find a great place usually. And living style, yeah, usually, I don't know, I feel like it's just a balance of your roommates and your living situation. It varies for a lot of people, but living style, like for me, I can just describe my setup. So I have 3 other roommates, and I live in a 2 bed, 1 bath, which makes the rent a little more affordable, but um, that's the essential living situation that I also feel like a lot of people on the South Side have too.
Yeah. Okay. So for context, I think the campus of Berkeley is like situated on a hill. So basically, South Side is at the very bottom of the hill, and then North Side is at the very top of the hill. And so TLDR, I had great cabs when I was living in Berkeley, or like I am living in Berkeley right now. But basically, it's just constantly climbing up and down hills. Um, I was in Northside for basically all my time in Berkeley. I had my freshman dorm housing in Foothill, and then I got an off-campus apartment, which is like also on Northside. Um, I was living alone this semester, but I have a roommate moving in in a couple of days actually. I'm really excited. But yeah, it's a 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, and it's very close to my classes, which I'm very happy about. Um, Yeah, I would say like the living style in Northside specifically is I would say it's a more of like a small town feel. So, you have like, local shops, you have like Safeway and that type of stuff, but it's very residential and pretty quiet for the most part. Um, and then when you like go down to like South Side or like downtown Berkeley, which is like on the west side, there's like more shops and like more people. It's more of like apartments and like high rise like type of living. And yeah, I think for the most part in Berkeley, the engineering classes are at the top of the hill in Northside. So if you would like to live closer to your campuses and not have to like walk up to your classes, and again, they're all sweaty in the morning, Northside is the way to go. But that also means that at the end of your day, you have to walk all the way back up. But I personally thought, hey, you know what? Arriving sweaty to my house is like much better than arriving sweaty to my classes. Yeah. I guess for like cooking and buying food. Oh yeah. So in Northside, a lot of the restaurants close at like 7 p.m., which is like, I don't know. I am a night owl. And so I was like, oh, that's not great. In Southside, there are a lot of places that like open or like that type of stuff that like later. I would like to cook more than I usually do. That is just more of my schedule and like I don't have enough time to cook. But Berkeley has like great dining options if you would like to like make like meal plans, and they have like buffet style dining halls if you would like to just like swipe in and like grab food and like just eat. And yeah, how are weekends spent?
Sorry to backtrack and describe my freshman living situation too.
Mhm.
So Berkeley has dorms we call the units, and I lived in the units, which is like a pretty popular area that people go to. So we have dorms that are here. This is Clark Kerr. This is like the athletic dorms, like the farther ones that are near Frat Row. And then we have the units, which are right here. So I lived in unit 1, and then there's another unit that's here, unit 2. And then Crossroads is like our dining hall. But that's a general setup that a lot of freshmen have too. They live in either like one of these units on South Side, which is another reason why a lot of people use South Side sometimes, because it's just a good transition from where they're living freshman year. But yeah, that was a little bit on my freshman dorming. And then cook or buy food. I try to save money. So I cook food mainly. I cook. It's like going to Trader Joe's and buying like frozen food sometimes. um, but there's that, and then also clubs host a lot of catered events. So I go to a lot of events for that sometimes too. And yeah, and then for weekends, um, oh, it's already okay. We will try to speed through this. For weekends, I just hang out with friends. You could either be on campus sometimes doing activities or go to San Francisco. There's a lot of options because you're in the Bay Area. But yeah.
Oh yeah, fun fact about Berkeley students, we get free Clipper cards, and that gives us free access to the buses that are like AC Transit that are in the Bay Area. And then it also gives us reduced fees for BART, which is like the subway for the Bay Area. So it's very easy to get places. And then I think the final question that we'll answer is from Donna, if you want to take a look at it. Do you share a roommate with your roommates because 2 bedrooms, and I think it's 4 people in total. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's 4 people total. So for transparency too, our rent is like $24.50, I think. So I pay, I forget how much I pay too, because I also have to include utilities. So I pay around $8.50 a month. And I have a room with my friend, and then the other room is our 2 friends. So that's kind of the layout that we have currently. And then in the dorms, you can have a triple, a double, or a quad.
Singles are very rare to come by.
Yeah, they're very rare. So that's also the lowdown on that. But it was really exciting. Like, it was great to talk to all of you, and thank you so much for joining our session. But yeah, oh, we can drop our socials or like our info in the chat. So if any of you have any questions or ever need anything, feel free to let us know. Cool. But thanks so much for having us.
Thank you for coming today. It's lovely to have you.
And honestly, if you guys like search me up on any platform, I'm pretty much just Kuhu Sharma, so you will find me there. Cool. On that note, I think I do have to head out. But it was really lovely getting to talk with y'all and answer your questions. Feel free to hit us up if you come up with more questions in the future. We're always here to help.
Yeah, but in the meantime, good luck with college apps.
Thank you.
Adios.